Howdy, Richard Keem here. Haven't done a YouTube video for quite a bit. Just been a little busy in life, but just want to get back out there and do another video. I'm actually down at the beach right now and just stepping more into what I'm going to be looking at doing in coaching and speaking. I am doing a speaking event on July 8th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if anybody wants the link for that or if they want to attend it in purpose and directly, just send me a message. But one of the things that I'm moving into is really just how well people value themselves. It's a learning process that I have had to go through when you do it correctly, and everything actually gets dramatically better. I don't think it's something that's taught in a clear, concise manner, okay? So somebody was asking me the other day when I was saying this is actually very, very easy, and they're so they wanted to know what does that mean, okay? So there's certain steps. So step one is, and I'll be kind of doing this in my lecture, is what's the first step? So like, let's say if I have my car is having an issue and I take it into the auto repair place to get worked on, one of the first things that they have to do is they have to open up the hood to take a look at the engine. So if we don't pop the hood on really having awareness, if we don't have awareness, okay, and I'm going to make that equivalent to the idea of popping open the hood, it's impossible to do anything. So first step is, and this is step number one, is that you have to be aware, okay? So what am I going to be aware of? All right, well, if it's an engine, you're going to look in at the engine, and the auto repair place is going to do some work and figure out what's wrong. And also in figuring out what's wrong, also trying to understand, how did it get that way? So, what's wrong? How did it get that way? And then how are we going to fix it so that it stays fixed? So really, the steps for our life are exactly the same way. What's wrong? What might be broken? We all have stuff that's not working quite the way that we want it. How did it get that way? So that's step number two. And the step number three, okay, is how do we actually fix it so that it actually stays fixed? Okay, so that's not that complicated. So your emotions and your emotional health is the engine. See, that is the engine. And if my emotional health is, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say I'm doing extremely well. Let's say my emotional health is a 12 or a 15. Then stuff hits me in life and I power right through it. I handle it. If my emotional health is a 2, my motor's not running very well, and it's really, I'm in a lot of trouble, okay? So life is very, very difficult, okay? So a couple things affect emotional health. The things that we think and we feel absorb into us, okay? So if I'm thinking things that are negative about myself, that thinking will absorb into me. And that's a challenge I had, was a certain negative thinking. And one of the books that I read, which is, I think, a pretty well-known book for a lot of people, but if you haven't heard it, is called The 4 Agreements, and I read that every single day, 5 to 10 minutes for 6 months straight. And I ended up with what I would call like an allergic reaction to judgment. So when I'm judging myself, okay, that's pulling the sword. I have my sword pulled when I'm in judgment and I'm judging myself. I'm using that sword against myself. Okay? When I'm judging others, I have my sword pulled. I'm using that sword in an outward direction, okay? So I highly suggest or recommend for anybody who's thinking about it. I read the Four Agreements book every day for 6 months. It will rewire how you're observing yourself and allow you to see negative thinking more clearly, and how or why you're going to start wanting to not be doing that to yourself. That's like putting 10,000 pounds of bricks on top of you. Doesn't feel very good, and it's exhausting, okay? And then when you're seeing what other people are doing in the world, if you have your sword pull, you're wasting a ton of time and energy. Nobody appreciates it if you have your sword pulled towards them. If that's how you're conducting life, it's going to go way more complicated, way more difficult. Every time you pull that sword and you use it on yourself or somebody else, life is not going to go well. So that's a big part of, let's say, a big issue that can happen with everybody's motor or everybody's engine. If we're going to pop the hood to the engine, look in, see what's going on. This may not be apply to you, but I think for a lot of us it does apply. That's like setting it up so that the engine max can only go 10 miles, 15 miles per hour. So life is always difficult. Life is always dramatically sluggish. Life is very challenging. It's like, having your foot on the accelerator but having your other foot stomped on the brake. So judging yourself is the same as having you got your foot stomped on the brake. How is life going to work? And again, all of this is insanely simple. That's the most powerful answer, is the simple answer. So judging the hell out of yourself, that's like stomping on the brakes. Almost no movement in life. You see other people whizzing by and doing good, and you're like, wow, boy, that guy just blew right by me at 100 miles an hour. I'm going 5 miles an hour. Life is difficult. Well, if we're judging ourselves, which again, I've had probably a PhD degree level capability on doing that. And that's, you teach what you had to learn, and this is what I'm teaching, is that this will dramatically drain your energy, dramatically make life 1,000 times more complicated. So step number one in looking at the motor is do I have a bunch of internal judgment? Do I have a big inner critic that's dramatically making life difficult? Okay. Step number two is that healing is actually insanely easy. Okay. So you might go, well, what does that mean? Okay. So does this inner judgment feel fair? Okay. If part of you thinks that you're bad and you're agreeing to it, you're stuck. So my question would be, is this inner judgment actually fair? And if it doesn't seem fair, that's a key. That's a key. If this is not fair, is this debilitating? Is it inappropriate? Has it been exhausting? And has it gone on for too long? Okay. So caring enough about yourself to allow yourself to heal from all of that. Okay? That's a process, but that process doesn't have to take extremely long, because it makes sense. It makes sense. And you're not only hurting yourself, but the rest of the world's suffering, because if you're in pain, the rest of the world is affected. if you feel good about yourself, one of your inclinations is to be, I guarantee it, to go out there and try to help others, okay? So if you're not helping yourself, if you're not getting fixed, two things happen. You're hurting yourself, but then also what you would be doing to help others is not showing up, okay? And if you look at what's happening in the world right now, a lot of blame orientation, one side blaming the other and vice versa. So a lot of what I would call spinning our wheels and wasting our time and wasting our energy and blaming each other people, and nothing gets fixed that way. So again, it's kind of like having in that case, both feet stomped on the brake, and so no movement, and that's what's happening in my opinion quite a bit in the world right now. It's just so healing is actually simple. It's not complicated. If you've been punishing yourself with inner judgment, ask yourself, does this seem fair? Does this seem appropriate? And if there's the inner critic wants to continue to believe that it is appropriate, there's the problem. This inner voice that chronically is beating you down. But there's another voice that will stand up, which I call the compassionate, wise adult, that finally will stand up as you become more aware of this inner critical voice that kind of goes, this makes no sense, and to heal ourselves actually makes sense, okay? So again, I'm doing a talk July 8th. People that are interested, send me a message, and that's it. I hope this makes sense to everybody. The quicker and faster you heal, and the quicker and faster we all do that, the quicker and faster what's actually happening in the world changes. This is not complicated. This is insanely simple. And usually the best answer is usually simple. This is super simple. Okay? Hope this makes sense. Thanks.